Okay then, well, I'm back. I told you guys I had to take a little bit of time, and that's because I had to close on and move into a new house, and then I also got engaged. So big things happening here, but now we get to get back to talking about basketball every single day. So welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're gonna be talking about the Toronto Raptors. And this is a team that I've had an interesting relationship with and interaction with their fans throughout this year and last year. And they ended up losing in the second round, and we're a couple of possessions away really from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals despite losing Kawhi Leonard in free agency. And I feel like if you ask, I could be completely off on this, but I feel like if you ask a lot of Raptors fans, if you would have told them a year ago that Kawhi's gonna leave, but you're still gonna be a couple possessions away from making the conference finals, they probably would have taken that. That's a pretty good outcome for this roster. So in this video, we're gonna be talking about kind of where they can go from here. I've done a video similar to this not too long ago, but I'm gonna go in multiple different directions here and kind of talk about a lot of different options for the Raptors moving forward. But really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload basically every single day, and leaving a like rating is a great way to let me know not only that you're enjoying the content, but also it helps out the video a ton as well. With that said, let's go and get started. Also, I had to move all my stuff, and the setup is a little bit different, so if things look a little bit weird with the lighting or the camera or the green screen, just bear with me for now. I want to get a video out. Okay, so as the Raptors head into the 2020 offseason, they have two priorities here, one of which is to maintain their cap space for the 2021 offseason. That is a critical offseason for the Raptors in terms of kind of creating this next era of Raptors basketball. And then the second priority is making sure that they're retaining their core and or getting value out of them via a trade. So the first part of this, of course, is that 2021 offseason. Everybody knows that there's going to be a ton of free agents available in the summer of 2021, and the Raptors are in an awesome position, not only cap space wise, but also as a franchise to potentially be a player for some of the bigger names. And that might seem strange to think of the Raptors as a free agency destination, but they've turned themselves into one of the best organizations in the league. They have a nice core that can work well with a star, and most notably in Giannis Antetokounmpo, they have been connected to a couple of bigger name free agents in that offseason, and they want to make sure that they at least give themselves a chance to bring in a guy in the summer of 2021. They don't want to be in a situation where someone like Giannis says that he wants to go to Toronto and they don't have the cap space to make it work. So that is a huge priority. They also want to make sure that they're still maintaining a competitiveness around this roster that they've had ever since, all the way back to the Dwayne Casey, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan days. This has been a really competitive roster for years and years, and they don't want to lose that, certainly not right before they go into a really critical free agency offseason in 2021. So they want to make sure that they're retaining this roster. But the interesting part of this is as you look at the 2021 payroll, they only have two players under contract for that offseason, and that's Pascal Siakam and Norman Powell, which means that they need to either retain and or ideally get some value out of guys like Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Kyle Lowry, OG Anunoby, and Fred VanVleet. So for the first couple of guys, for Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka, if you're the Raptors, ideally you're bringing those guys back on one-year contracts. You're maintaining that cap space in 2021. You're giving these guys a ton of money on a one-year deal so that you can maintain some semblance of a competitive roster, especially in the front court in which they do need those guys. Now for the other three guys, these are players that are free agents either in 2020 or 2021. They have some interesting decisions to make. So they already extended Kyle Lowry to another year to where he will be on the roster next year making about $30 million, and then will be a free agent in the summer of 2021. And OG Anunoby will be a restricted free agent next offseason as well. But Fred VanVleet is the guy that they really have to deal with this offseason. And in a previous Raptors video, I was a little bit too conservative in my estimate for him in terms of what he could demand in free agency. He's probably going to end up with a deal right around $13 to $15 million a year. And I feel like the Raptors would be comfortable bringing him back on a deal around that number. And for OG Anunoby, depending on what kind of year he has next year, he's probably going to be making around $10 million a year next year, again, depending on kind of what kind of season he has. So what that means for this team moving forward is if they can retain those two players on numbers right around that, they can keep those two players and still have the one-year deals for guys like Lowry, Gasol, and Ibaka for this year. So they can basically bring back the same roster for next season while still having max contract cap flexibility in that summer of 2021. Now, this is like the best case scenario for Toronto, where nobody throws a crazy offer at VanVleet, nobody throws a crazy offer at OG Anunoby. Both Gasol and Ibaka want to return on one-year deals, and they don't end up trading Kyle Lowry. This is like best case scenario for Toronto. But once you start to get outside of that, there's going to be some decisions that are going to have to be made because they have to balance maintaining a competitive roster with making sure that they have cap space in the summer of 2021. And they might have to start sacrificing on one end or the other. If they really want to make sure that they have as much cap space as possible, they might have to let someone like Gasol or Ibaka walk if they want a multi-year deal rather than just a one-year deal. But then on the other hand, if they don't want to lose those guys, then they might have to retain them on multi-year deals or on bigger numbers than they'd want to. And that would limit their flexibility for cap space in the summer of 2021. So that's kind of the balancing act here for Toronto. But they're absolutely in a really, really good position. Like I said, their current roster was within a couple of possessions of making the Eastern Conference Finals again, despite losing Kawhi Leonard. They have a ton of cap space flexibility in that summer of 2021 with only two guaranteed contracts on the roster for that summer. And they have other options outside of this because they want to make sure that they're in a position to either potentially trade for a star or just make a trade to improve their roster. So if they're able to retain all these players, they'll certainly be in a position to do that. And that includes a possible Kyle Lowry trade down the road. Now, Kyle Lowry means a ton to this roster, and it would mean a lot for this group to end up moving on from him and trading him to a different team, but he does have that huge expiring contract, and it's there for a reason. Like, Toronto knows what they're doing. They have one of the best front offices in the entire league, and when they brought back Kyle Lowry on that deal, they knew that it was possible that they might end up trading for a star using Lowry's big expiring contract, and so that is definitely a possibility. And if I had to kind of look into the future and say what I think is going to happen here for Toronto, as I said, I have complete confidence in this organization to make the correct decisions and to put themselves in an awesome position to make a big move in the summer of 2021. Whether that's going to happen or not, I'm not sure. But what's probably going to happen is they're going to retain Fred VanVleet on a pretty good contract this offseason and try and bring back either Ibaka or Gasol or both of them on one-year deals. I'd imagine they'd be able to get at least one of them and maybe both. And then they're going to play out next season pretty much with the same group, making some other moves around the edges in terms of free agency and things like that on some of those bigger one-year deals and go into next year trying to make the conference finals again. And after that season, then you'll have, some potential big moves in the summer of 2021. I'm not really anticipating a Lowry trade at the moment, but they might make one at the deadline next year, depending on how their season goes. And then from there, they're going to try and make their big move. And even if they don't get someone like Giannis or a max level player in the summer of 2021, because even though they're a great destination, they're a great organization, it still seems unlikely that someone would actually choose to go play for the Raptors in free agency. Even if they strike out on a big name, they have a ton of space to either take on assets from other teams in exchange for salary dumps or just build a nice roster around guys like VanVleet and Siakam and OG that are signed long-term, ideally at that point. So either way, they can't really go wrong here. And like I said, I'm fully confident that they're going to make the correct decisions with this group because they've proven time and time again that they really know what they're doing in Toronto. So there are a lot of teams around the league that are envious of the position that the Raptors are in right now. And there's a high ceiling potentially for this group if they do bring in someone like Giannis. But there's also a pretty high floor as well, where they're not just going to completely bottom out, barring some kind of catastrophic unforeseen injury or major, screw up to this roster. The Raptors are going to be a good team for the next couple of years, worst case, but they also have the opportunity to be a great one, depending on how the summer of 2021 works out. And yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.